Our heroes were trying to negotiate with the orcs in their camp, but something went wrong.
Run, you fools!
What the hell did you say to that orc woman?
I just wanted to sing her a song. I didn't know it was the chief's daughter.
Yeah, you imbecile fool.
Run for that city. Captain! I see something!
What do you see, soldier?
Orcs are coming!
Get ready!
Hello there! Thank you for tuning in to my YouTube channel. I'm Ole Brugger, and in this episode, I know it took a while to get it up here, but now I'm actually done with it. We are going to look at this Citygate/castle. Let's get started. I started out having this idea. I wanted to build city gates, but I didn't know the exact size of it, so I started using my dungeon tiles to make a mock-up so I could determine what size it was going to be. I knew it wanted 2 towers and a big tower in the middle, and it worked. I'm cutting off this piece of foam. It's 4 centimeters thick, and I wanted it in 3 inches wide sections, and then I wanted to chop it up in 1 centimeter thickness for basing and for making the bricks. Marking up the base plates was pretty easy. I wanted to have 2 towers, 2 wall sections, and a gate. All the basing is cut out, and the big section in front of this is going to be a moat. I am just going to eyeball this line because it's approximately 1 centimeter, but it's going to be the shoreline of the moat. So I wanted it to be rough and irregular. To make it uneven, I was just eyeballing it in 45 degrees angle and then cut it out and flip the opposite part 180 degrees. Then I cut out a piece of crafting paper at the same size of the rest of the system, 3 inches wide, and put the banks of the moat on the side. Put on some glue and let it dry. Setting it up with the other base plates, and I'm using the jig from my dungeon tile video to mark up the holes for magnets later on. Let's build a drawbridge. I'm using these coffee stir sticks, cutting them into the right size. Then they need some glue, some clamps, dry time, and while the bridge is drying up, I wanted to make some bricks. First I'm giving it some texture, using all the scrap pieces of foam, and then we just need to cut it up. I wanted some big bricks for this build, because it's going to be big and it will be easier, so it's 1 by 1 centimeter by 2, so pretty big bricks. I found these old gloves from my workshop. They have a pretty good texture, so if I'm just crushing all the bricks between my hands, it will make them nice and uneven and old and worn out corners. Now the drawbridge is dry. Let's see if it fits. It's perfect. Now I'm going to do a mock-up where the walls are going to be. So just so I have an idea of where to put the bricks. And then I got a bit impatient. I started to laying out the bricks, and then I found out I forgot to put on some texture on the base plate. Then I had to break off all the bricks. Luckily the glue wasn't dry yet, so it was not that big of an issue. It would also be easier to lay out the grids. For the texture, I used this cobblestone roller I 3D printed. Then I found out it might be a good idea to put the cobble effect inside the towers as well. Some glue, and now I can put on some bricks. And in this step, I had to figure out how to make the portcullis, because I wanted to be functional. So I started using coffee stir sticks to make some guides so the portcullis can slide down through these without getting stuck in some foam. I also needed to make some hinges for the drawbridge, and I needed to implement this from the beginning as well, because when we get further on it would be a bit annoying and very difficult to drill these holes and put it all together. I also want to reinforce the hinge with some pieces of wood so it won't be rubbing against the foam directly. For the portcullis, I used some 3x5mm pieces of wood and some sticks from Q-tips. Marking up for some holes, drilling holes, and just putting it all together. I sharpened the edges of the Q-tips. Now we have a portcullis. Then I just had to put on some more support for the guide, glue it together and clamp it up. Starting to put on some bricks on the bottom layers and see if everything fits together, get a good overview of how it works together. More glue and more bricks. Some embrasures for all the sections. This is the most difficult section of this build. Me and math are not very good friends, so I had to do these arches over and over again before I had something that worked for me. But I think you are better at this and you can do it much faster than me. It was all trial and error, and a ton of scrap. In the end, it worked out pretty good. I just had to make some texture on the surface so everything would look like stone brick. Here I did it on some smaller arches for the openings on the back. Just using a ball pen and some alu foil. And some more brickwork. It's looking good for now, but I ran out of bricks. I had to build the second floor. I needed to make an overhang, so all the base plate were made 1 centimeter over the actual size. Then I decided to combine the side towers and the wall into one piece, but I needed the bricks to line up more perfectly. So it was a minor setback, but I think the result turned out pretty good. A castle or city gate needs some matriculations, so we need to cut out 45-degree angle on the base plates and then some holes so you can shoot down on people standing below you. Also needs a grid and some surface texture, holes for ladders. I also attached some magnets below this crafting paper, so I could remove the tower and access the first floor easier. I need some chain for the drawbridge and some holes to pull it through, but chain rubbing against the foam is not a good idea, so I put in some pieces of straw. and pull the chain through that. Trimming off the straw, and now I needed something for the chain to hang over so it wouldn't interfere with the portcullis. Trimming the height for the portcullis, I glued in the beam and added some extra support for it. I had to make some wheels for the chain so I could roll up the drawbridge and the portcullis. I needed to drill some tiny holes for some wire so I could attach the chain. Mechanics for the portcullis and the drawbridge are done. Now I can focus on finishing up the matriculations and the rest of the bricks for the towers. I also need to build some ladders for here and here. I also finished up the final 2 side towers. Added some colors for extra support for the big tower. Now I just needed to make the big tower and finish up the moat. For the moat I will use some drywall filler to make some more texture in the bottom of the moat. It's a bit messy, so I used a glove and just splashed it on. And everything starts to come together, and I can see how everything will turn out to be. Looking forward to do some painting. But first we need to take everything apart and get it ready for some Mod Podge. I use the Black Magic's recipe for the Mod Podge and black paint, added with some water, and it works out perfectly. And then I just need to prime it with some Panzer Grey. I primed the moat with some yellow, and now I'm going to use some mud and some brown colors, darkest in the middle, to make some kind of illusion of it's more deep. And then I put on some grass and grout and tiny stones. I mixed up some 2-component epoxy. It's a 1:2, and then I put it in the vacuum chamber to get the air bubbles out, and it was time to make a pour. This is actually the first time I've poured epoxy in a project like this, so I'm looking forward to the result. While the epoxy was drying up, I started to paint all the wood parts, and I found this stain. It's actually built for model ships, but I think it could work on the wood to make it look old. To attach the drawbridge I had these hinges, and they fit in the holes. I drilled some tiny holes and put in some steel wire to attach it, just to make it easier to pull it apart. And for the portcullis, I used some rough iron and other painting effects. I used a dry brush with some yellow tan for all the bricks and some Nuln oil on the cobblestone. It is all coming together now, but we still need a couple of more things. I need some flag posts. and some banners. So I just printed it out, made it double-sided, fold it up, and glued everything together. I used a very thinned down paint to make the flags look old. And by bending some steel wire, I made some hooks for the banners so they could attach to the wall. And to make some floor for the top of the building, I again used some coffee sticks. Cut them to length and glue them in. Drill a hole for the flag poster. And then I used the same model ship stain for the floor, just without painting it first. And using it directly, it worked perfectly. I also used a tool to punch some holes for nails. I added some green below the windows. Put in some moss. Used my grass applicator for the moat. I used some PVA glue to make some tiny riffles on the moat. When it dries up, it'll be totally clear. I also needed to build a couple of more ladders that could go from top to bottom or bottom to top. It started to look good, and we are almost done. I 3D printed a ton of minis with crossbows, some ballistas, but I needed something in front of the city gate. I wanted to make some grass plains and a road. So I started cutting up some grid for the road, making some texture, and a wheel track. So it looks like a carriage has been there. For making up the track. And some crumbled up alufoil to make some more texture on it. I also needed some horse tracks and some footprints. Make a grid on the grass plains. These grass plains will also be used for different scenarios where I can place different scatter terrains and all that stuff. So they will be a universal base place for all kinds of stuff. Mud Podge to seal up things before paint. Airbrushing in different kinds of brown and tan colors to build up some kind of dirt. Adding some spray glue, some grout. I sprayed it with some dark wash. I added glue with a brush on each tile or on the grid, so it will still be visible when I applied the grass. I stole one of my wife's stockings and put it on the vacuum cleaner so I could reuse all my static grass after I have applied it. And here is the final result. Thank you so much for watching. I know this build took a while, and I will try to be a bit faster with the next build, so you will get a new video sooner. But remember to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye for now.